service. I wait for the nurse, disgusted with myself, hunched over in our clinic lobby, trying to read People magazine. Blood burns my swollen eye, streaks my Mexican shirt and bolo. Wash rag jammed at my nose, I tilt back my head, do everything I've been told, but can't stop the bleeding. 50 minutes every hour, from 8 to 5 today, the boys came in because they had to. Sent by the court. Not for help, but I should have noticed they came for something. A 13-year-old hunched in my office, tall for his age, I thought, but contradictory. Open 1 minute, closed the next. Polite. He focused on my huaraches. His case note said a straight-A student, but a kid in trouble because he pushed his foster mother against the kitchen wall after she started yelling again, after she threatened again, after she beat the daylights out of him because he was there and dinner wasn't, and she turned him in. I can't prove what I know is true. He won't tell again, won't admit it, like he said when the police first asked. I'm supposed to advise if he's to go back to the foster home. Joke. Where else? Another one of the place's arms get broken? He fell off his bike, his foster mother said. But she wants him back. She's called 5 times today. She loves him, my little boy. I asked, Diego, you want to return? What he thinks makes no difference to what will happen, but I believed him when he whispered in his best Anglo, oh no, sir. Please, no. My best dream hoped for help in hell. I said, you heard. It must have touched him. Must have been what made him punch me, go berserk. I shouldn't have, but I forgot. This kind of boy feels safest without kind touch, certain loss. Chokehold, Portland, Oregon. The past 3 years it turned from fall to freeze, punched up. Dennis would slide back into our Skid Row treatment center. Home, he'd swear, for winter, shrugging off the nurse. No show this year. We worried. December, he turned up. Tie, slacks, said he'd found Jesus. Was going to church, found a place of his own, thanked us, said maybe his family was back. Cross your fingers, he grinned, his bitter, sarcastic grin. Under this rage, he's sweet as the braced girl who stared sideways from the photograph he carefully tipped to show us, who didn't know her father knew she was coming in on a train from Coeur d'Alene. Dennis was walking on air. Her mother wrote, says, maybe I'll get to see her, my little girl, Denise. Dennis told me, I see your mother offering flowers in the airport, smiling until I got up close in the terminal, just back from Nam. Pig, she hissed. She spat in my face. I stowed my duffel and luggage, quick, changed into civvies in the John, wore shades, went back. Coming at her that way, she never recognized me. And shacked up for 9 months, it blew her mind at the end when she discovered my secret stash of medals and kicked me out, called me a shit. By then, our baby was due. They vanished. I had no trace. She sent the baby's photo to my mom in Christmas Valley. My mom sent the photo on, wrote, don't be coming round. The cop on the beat stopped in for coffee last week, said Dennis jumped from a favorite bridge, said there's a lot who like that bridge, the mountain view. We talked how Dennis helped sandbag in the floods last year, gave every cent he had, saw him give his pack to any drunk or vet. The word from the street was Dennis got drunk, and his daughter's mom refused to let him come in at the Hilton. He raised a hell of a fuss, bashed the door until she called the cops. We got a lawyer's letter telling us Dennis named me next of kin. He hated queers, but still liked me, and God knows how that works, when all I wanted to do was get him sober and gone. Our letter to his mom in Christmas Valley returned, address unknown, 33 Mistletoe Lane. I wish I could see him walk out of a golden light, his daughter riding on his shoulders on air, thin air, toward a laughing woman with flowers under a cobalt sky. Some nights, he'd wake the house, and one of us would hurry to his room where he'd be crouched. We'd listen, welcome him back, after he finished screaming facts I've had to forget, but I can't forget the morning I went to his room early. The air was still soft. One of those summer mornings the few birds left still sing from the straggling street maples. He had an appointment. We worried he'd miss his food stamps again. There I learned you never touch a tripwire vet to wake him, after, in seconds, he'd leapt from his bed, nearly chokehold pinned me up against the battered wall. Dennis made his appointment. I assume everyone knows what employee assistance is. It's an organization that's often between employees and their employer and provides some helping functions. It's kind of a middle person place. Employee assistance. I should have stopped. The man in my office knew it, said he knew that he had to quit the crystal, but didn't. Before he drove his company van through the front window, over the tables, over the giant guess-the-weight chocolate bunny, into the counter of Ethel's Patisserie and Christian Gifts. Surprising Ethel with a new transmission. A little line when I got up on Monday, he says, "It's going to be my last." I knew I shouldn't because it got real bad, but I've been cutting down, way down. I just had to get going, keep moving. I gotta do this myself. He holds his breath, pounds his thighs with his fists, hard enough to bruise, and knuckles his eyes, but he can't stop sobbing. This morning I woke up talking to my wife again. "June, honey," I said, "looky here about this guy you're seeing. But June's been gone 10 years with my Ben. She took my little guy, took him to Tallahassee. You just gotta forget the past." Mama left, and my daddy took after. He said, "Y'all best make do." Age 41, his patch embroidered, "Vic, at your service." His cap lies crumpled at his feet. He'd been folding it over its bill and back before he caught himself and dropped it between his feet. He stills a moment from rocking in the stiff company khakis that some men use to keep from falling apart. Faith in the power of a good crease. Looking up with the hopeful, tear-streaked face of a boy, this short man who's measured up and made his mark in statewide parts delivery tells me he's got to get back to work. I tell him he's been suspended and maybe fired. He sobs, "But I gotta work. I gotta be at work. I lose my pickup if I don't. I lose my room. I can't make child support. Can't you tell him to stop this, mister? Can't you tell him?" I was thinking about the guys who kind of triggered this next poem. These guys had been living, rough for years, and they were almost fused together. I couldn't tell if they were brothers or if they were lovers. That they came in and they were sitting in the office, and they apparently had had the fear of God put into them about their smoking tobacco, because they said they'd been to the doctor, and they wanted to know how to quit. So I was reminded of one of the Three Simple Tales by Gustave Flaubert, the St. Julian the Hospitaller, and the epigraph is from that. The poem is titled Morning Has Broken. So Julian stretched himself out upon the leper, lay on him, lips to lips, chest to chest. Then the leper clasped in close, and presently the breath of his nostrils had the scent of flowers. Gustave Flaubert. I know their morning route, and find them here in the park. A short black man and a tall white man paused in the glistening rain after rain. I've come in the medical outreach van. Their empty phaeton waits a block away, a shopping cart graced with ribbons. Weathered so long they've turned the same deep bronze from clinging to freights across the plains, Abilene to Billings. We'll ride again, the tall man boasts. He feels as strong as he did before, slinging both of their packs to an open boxcar as the train slowed at the end of the yards. He'd vault the lip of the door, land, twirl, split second back, and bending catch the swirl of his partner's arm and lift. He says, I could have been an acrobat. I'd have run yard arms on schooners. The tall man's way of balance says that he fished, Acadian man who's lost his ocean in a morning of shattered light. He dreams the North Banks still. If I kissed him, I'd see the horizon and taste the crust at the edge of his mouth with its ping of salt and bitterness, where the cigarette's glued against a gale. If I'd met him sailing below Gibraltar, I might have caressed the ship-shape woven ponytail swagging his back, where a scrimshaw clipper tattoo sinks into ivory skin. If I'd closed my eyes and traced his ear, I'd have felt the loss at the bottom of his left pierced lobe, where a Madagascar brawler ripped out his gold earring. I know from his case file that the scar carved across his lower lip alerts the shore patrols from San Diego to Hampton Roads. I know that under his left temple a mole burrows and multiplies. I know that his swollen belly hides a liver soon to fail its morning watch and his hacked-out lungs. I know that in Nova Scotia his grown daughter lives abandoned to thoughts of where she hopes he isn't. His quiet buddy, the black man, dresses with class much deeper than skin, a frayed, uncolored chevalier in a checkered vest and apricot bandana. In Telluride, where he was born, hearing the Saturday opera, he dreamed of Paris after he heard Je marche sur tous les chemins, Manon. Their silver, retired greyhound arcs ahead of them on a slender lead. Its metal threads catch the morning like a gold vein catches a miner's dreams. He turns 3/4 to his friend and points ahead. I'd give him a planter's malacca cane to better poise like an 18th century planter grandee at the edge of a painting, who lifts a drape and points, reveals the new world Eden he owns. These two swells give and take like boulevardiers who have worked 100 swindles at Baccarat au 21 in Nice, where the violet lilacs bud. In Longchamp, my bon vivants would dream of betting on the pony's gleam. Laughing, one would touch his comrade's shoulder as if they surveyed through opera glasses the track and all the assembled demoiselles in their silk and lawn high-season dresses. If I embraced them both, my body would blotch with a shimmering yellow as pollen indelibly blots the face of a person inhaling flowers. But I'm unmasked in my medical van, and I won't kiss them because their diseases are not romantic. Hepatitis, ABC, tuberculosis, a kiss, a breath, a death together. My men have failed to return to the clinic for their medication, so I've tracked them here again. They know I've come, but give no sign as I mark their truancy on my charts. They politely loathe me and my latex gloves. So I hold for a moment at the wheel of the outreach van to watch them promenade the long and brilliant row in this Jardin des Tuileries. I was walking one Sunday in Portland. I'm just in that area over by the Coliseum at that time was almost empty most of the time on the weekends. It hadn't been tarted up the way it is now. And I walked by the old Beacon's place and I heard this dog barking. And it just struck me so much that there must be a house in that place somewhere, all packed up. Sunday morning at Beacon's, Ocean Park. Rattled the door of the warehouse. No one cares, except deep in the center, a Doberman snarls at dust and silence. Each cubicle invested with the props of a house, the dressers, double beds, the marbleized Formica dinette sets, Fiesta china, Jello molds, swizzle sticks with babes from Reno, Playboy poker decks, and years of popular mechanics. In a distant suburb, the man in that wedding picture wakes and wonders from his nursing home bed how his buddies did today on the DMZ. See his stucco bungalow? On the day they took this picture, a day that's never been repeated, you could see the emerald palms, the coral beach and turquoise sea, the lipstick red tile of the distant esplanade, the house white as a starlet's teeth. You could see his troop ship ready for Korea, and the woman adjusting her orchid and the evening in Paris blue veil just sewn to her mother's old wedding hat. Today, if you calmed the dog and sat with his chin on your knee in the heart of this house, you would feel the stucco ricochet and emptiness of ramps to basement shops where no one changes oil or tinkers over fans or radios. You'd become this man. You'd wish your boy would visit. You'd clip the laurels to the nub beside a rusting cyclone fence. But when the boy was small, in the evening, if you walked by the house, splayed open like a baby's mouth in sleep, a pale pink curtained tongue hanging over a windowsill, you'd see yourself, a tired man who's worked all day, quietly washing dishes, so huge you almost fill the tiny kitchen. You pause and turn, quietly laughing with your wife, who sits at the tin forget-me-not enameled table, holding her hair up in the back for the cool, smoking her Kent, and you fan her with a dishcloth. You know the sound of an ace of hearts, clothes pinned to click against the spokes of a bike come home. In the harbor, you hear the fishing boats return on the tide, and after you carry the boy to sleep, you stand at an open window and face the sea. And for the last poem I'd like to read, actually, the genesis of it was a dance in Monarch, Montana. Monarch, Montana had, when I lived near it, a population of perhaps 25. But it had a little old Grange building, and sometimes they would have dances there. And I remember, budding little homosexual that I was, I simply didn't understand how to ask anybody to dance. Certainly not a boy in Monarch, Montana, and I didn't even know how to ask a girl. My aunt, who was my guardian, offered me $5, a huge amount, $5 to ask a girl to dance, and I couldn't do it. It shows you that I could no longer actually really handle money, and I didn't know handle social events either. But the genesis of this poem is that little Grange Hall. 8th grade graduation dance. Oh, and one other thing. In Montana, many of the tiny little schools that were left were consolidated. I mean, there was a huge consolidation, so everybody got bused everywhere, and this is just after a consolidation. Before the 8th grade graduation dance. A dozen girls in butterick party dresses teeter on their first squash heels. Voile roses flutter above their worry of breasts. A locket shines, but a new watch stops. A mother's treasured earrings pinch. Slouched on the school porch, jaws thrust against the giggles, they practice a secret tongue of contempt and remember to fold their mother's arms. Beneath their notice, but watched hard, the bow-tied boys fester like worker bees under the hood of a cherry-red V8. Stiff as their new Levi's, way slower than the girls they rule. They supervise a rebbing turbo, practice for a counting job when they will lie in the shade of a dump truck parked behind the sign of the Lazy Doe on Culver Hill. Rage will swell their waists. Their girls will turn wives bitter with children. Next year, the 10 kids left in the school will bus their fears to the county seat. But no one teaches the link between quadratics and Lois, stripped in booze back seat. After the speeches, the principal's lady deals upside-down cake squares like the ace of spades. Thank you.